Hey everyone, it's Mary Brownlee, licensed professional counselor. Today we're going to talk about negative core beliefs and self-worth. And these two aspects are so important to understand as trauma survivors because really what a lot of us have done is internalize very harmful and negative and untrue messages from our childhoods that we received from our family members. And really it's a parent's job to really raise a child in a way that will foster healthy self-worth and identity and positive core beliefs. But that's not what happens to us if we are raised in a family with abuse and neglect. Instead, again, that generational trauma, negative messages, that our parents internalized maybe when they were children, also from their caregivers, and even before that, our grandparents and so forth. All of these negative messages about who they were impaired their ability to love themselves and to be a healthy parent. And therefore, they really passed on these legacy or burdens onto us. And it was never our role in life to take on the family legacy of pain. So when we're trauma survivors, we become chain breakers when we do this work of healing generational trauma. And part of generational trauma is the untrue messages that we internalized about ourselves based on our family's maltreatment or abuse of us. So I have come up with 10 very common lies or untruths that trauma survivors commonly get from their abusive family of origins. And then I also have the antidote to the lie or the truth, the actual real truth of how a trauma survivor should see themselves. So this is kind of important to undo a lot of the brainwashing that goes on in trauma survivors, because they come into therapy very frequently feeling like the negative messages are true about them. They are not true. So this is part of the challenge of healing our childhood trauma, is relearning how to see ourselves in the most accurate light, not from the family of origins perspective, because that's a very skewed, incorrect, unhelpful light, but in a more accurate, compassionate lens that has truth and honesty. So I hope that this video will help you also begin to see yourself in a more truthful and helpful light as well. All right, without further ado, let's get started with number one. Number one, all right, this one is a common one that I hear a lot. Some version of a parent or family member telling the abuse survivor that they are too sensitive, too loud, too much, or, the opposite is you're not enough in some way, shape, or form. So you're either too much or not enough, and there's something is inherently wrong with you, basically. And the antidote to this is I am okay just as I am. And I don't need to change myself to please anyone else, right? So if you're just going about your life and you have a natural temperament or personality that maybe is shy, or maybe you do love to talk and you're animated and your family isn't. But if you were different from your family in some way, shape, or form, and they didn't like that, that is their problem. There is nothing inherently wrong with your temperament or natural personality, especially if you're not going out of your way to harm anybody. It's just who you are. Then that really was an abusive and untrue message that told you that there was something inherently wrong with who you really authentically really were. And that's a problem. So as trauma survivors, we're trying to find our authentic self and love our authentic self. And so part of that is peeling back the layers of untrue messages that we were told about ourselves. You were not too sensitive. Most likely, you probably were reacting very naturally to harmful treatment as any other human being would react. And if you were too loud, for example, my guess is you probably were not too loud. Just your parent, for whatever reason, found normal child behavior annoying and obnoxious and constantly tried to make you shut up or be silent. And quite frankly, kids are kids. Kids are loud, they're messy, they're noisy. That's what they do. A lot of our parents had very unrealistic expectations about children's behavior and what was normal. And so what they did essentially is tell us that very normal, healthy traits that we were as children were bad or wrong in some way. And so we internalized these messages and said, maybe I am bad. Maybe I am wrong. Maybe I am flawed and I need to change that and not be that. And so this really begins the starting process. It's very young children of us shutting down our authentic self and beginning to mask and put on all those different fake faces just to try to make other people happy. So as a trauma survivor, nope, we're not going to do that anymore. You're not going to hide your beautiful self anymore. If you are naturally sensitive or shy or loud and funny, you know what? You be you, because the right people will have no problem with your authentic self, and you don't need to hide your authentic self anymore. All right? Number 2, okay, another common thing that I hear a lot of trauma survivors struggle with is the message that you don't know what you're talking about. So basically something about their feelings, their thoughts, their perceptions, their ideas were just wrong, flat out wrong or irrelevant or stupid, you fill in the blank, right? So they got this common message from the family that who they authentically were, again, their own thoughts, feelings, perceptions were flawed and stupid or wrong. And so here they are as an adult still feeling very deeply that there's something inherently wrong with them. And so the antidote to this is that you are allowed to have different thoughts, feelings, and perceptions than other people, and there's nothing wrong with that, right? So this is not something those of us who grew up in abusive families are used to hearing, that, hey, people have differences and it's okay. And it's normal, actually. You don't have to think or feel or believe the same as your neighbor or your classmate or your teacher. You are entitled to have your own thoughts, feelings, and needs and to be different from other people. And there's nothing wrong with that. Yeah, let that one soak in. Feels pretty good, huh? Number 3, this is a good one. Love and respect are automatically owed because we are family. So this goes in line with like parents who expect automatically that their kids should, be completely obedient, should follow their every order as if it were like military, school or something like that. So yeah, and the fact that like loyalty and love and all that should automatically be owed to them because they're your parents, for example, and look at everything they do for you. So this message that love and respect and loyalty and all that is automatically earned just by virtue of sharing the same house with somebody and maybe the same DNA, for example, false, 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 false. So the antidote to this one is love, respect, and loyalty is earned and earned over time and by repeated behaviors that instill trust and honesty and respect and safety, right? So there's reciprocity here. I respect you, and in turn, you respect me. And over many years of trustworthy, respectful behavior, we build this relationship that feels really safe and loving and kind, and that's good for our nervous systems and good for our development. So yeah, just because you share DNA with somebody or share the same household or call yourselves family does not mean that love, loyalty, and respect should automatically be given to the family members. Nope. If they're abusive or they're neglectful and they're harming you, love, respect, and loyalty go out the window because that's not actually real love. That's not actually what healthy families do. So kids are a privilege to have. I have 2 kids of my own. My kids don't owe me for their lives. So this is another common message that you get from abusive parents is that you owe me. I'm your parent and you owe me. No. Children didn't ask to be born, right? So you decided to have sex, you decided to have children. Guess what? Your children are your responsibility, and it's your job to fulfill their needs, their social needs, their emotional needs, their physical needs. It takes more than putting a roof over a child's head and food in their belly to raise a child properly and to encourage healthy brain development and social development. That takes a lot more. It takes daily consistency and nurturing and unconditional love and being like their first really nurturing teacher, right? It takes more than just kind of dialing it in with the bare minimum. So no, love, respect, and loyalty is earned. It's not automatically owed to anyone, and children are not owed automatic obedience and respect to their parents just because they breathe air. No, none of us asked to be born. So if you're here on this planet, it's because your parents decided to have you and bring you into this world, and therefore it is their job and their duty to treat you with kindness, love, and respect. And if they have failed to do that, then natural and logical consequences tells us that they will probably not have a close adult relationship with you when you're grown. So that is very commonly what we see happen when an adult is finally grown and out of the home and away from the abusive family, is that oftentimes many of us go no contact and they actually lose that relationship. So yeah, abusive parents love to control people. They love to expect immediate obedience. They expect to have authority over their children, and they expect blind obedience and worship, so to speak. Yeah, no, that's not what healthy relationships are made of. Number 4, all right, if you have a problem with how I treat you, well, then that's because you're too sensitive, stupid, dumb, fill in the blank with whatever adjective your family told you about yourself when you maybe tried to speak up and address some concern or hurt that had been, directed at you. And inevitably, as we see in abusive families, it will always be directed back at the victim as there's something wrong with the victim. The victim has a problem with the maltreatment in the family. That's actually because the victim is too sensitive, or a baby, or crazy, or whatever, you fill in the blank. So the antidote to this is, hey, I trust my own judgment about what I'm actually feeling. And if what I'm actually feeling says I'm being abused and this is harmful to me, then full stop. That's what the truth is. Like, they don't get to decide what is harmful or abusive to us. We get to decide what is harmful and abusive to us. And if we're saying, hey, this is harmful, logic says maybe I should listen and respect that and hear you out. And, if they really didn't intend to cause harm, it would behoove them to apologize and say, hey, I didn't intend for that to come across that way. But as we see in our abusive families, that's not what happens. Inevitably, if you try to address a problem, it's blame shifted back onto the victim, and there's something wrong with the victim, that, they keep harping and bringing this up because they're crazy and too sensitive and whatever. So yeah, victims are entitled and are allowed to have their own feelings, thoughts, etc. about what's happening to them, and they alone get to decide what's harmful. Like you, the abuser, don't get to decide what's harmful to the victim. Yeah, imagine that. Number 5. All right, this is another common one I see, where there will be some variation from the family that any emotional expression by the victim is a sign of weakness. So usually the family has some sort of narrative around emotional expression, whether it's we don't express emotions at all, except for anger. Usually what's interesting to see and how common it is, the abuser or the parent that's highly controlling and volatile, anger will be allowed to be expressed, of course, only by the abusive parent. No one else in the family is allowed to be angry or to express anger. And then on top of that, usually there's some terrible messages around like vulnerable emotions. So say if the victim as a child expressed sadness or distress related to the abuse or what was going on, and then they were given some sort of message of like, I'll give you something to cry about, or you shut your mouth, you're annoying me, or go to your room if you're going to be crying like that. So some sort of message about emotions being wrong or bad or not allowed. So of course, that does great damage to our ability to express ourselves authentically. It does great damage to, our ability to emotionally regulate, distress tolerance, all of those type of skills. Abusive parents who do this type of message really cut developing children off at the knees, so to speak, to be able to learn emotional intelligence. Like, can I even label what I'm feeling? So yeah, if you grew up in this type of abusive family, you're not even going to know necessarily what you're feeling, because it was so shut down from the time you were very little that you didn't develop these skills of knowing what you're feeling and then being able to do some type of distress tolerance skills or coping skills or self-soothing, for example. So yeah, this is a destructive lie as well, because the reality is emotions are a very normal and healthy part of our development as human beings. And in fact, what's even more fascinating about emotions is that every single decision we make in our life, from the time we're little to adulthood and beyond, every decision we make has to go through the emotional centers of the brain first before we can actually make a decision. So anything from like, what pair of shoes do I want to wear this morning, to what car do I want to buy? Your decision before you make it goes through the emotional centers of the brain. It's the emotional centers of the brain that is giving us information on what feels right for us and what feels safe and how to proceed. Without the emotional centers of our brain, we would just be, I guess, like zombies probably, like we wouldn't feel anything. So that's important to destigmatize emotions in general, because a lot of clients come in with a lot of stigma around especially vulnerable emotions. So the antidote to this lie is, hey, recognizing that emotions are valuable pieces of information, that they serve to protect me, they serve to help me make decisions and direct my life, and they're a very normal, healthy part of brain development. And anybody who's trying to tell you to shut those down and that you are inherently wrong or weak or bad in some way, shape, or form because you have emotions, they are dead wrong. Dead wrong. And in fact, they are doing great damage to human development and child development. And, quite frankly, I wish they would just shut up, because I can't tell you how many clients I have had sitting before me where we've had to undo this incredibly harmful message. So yeah, if there's any wisdom I can share about this one, is your emotions are a normal, healthy part of your development. You were meant to have them. And in fact, being fully human and being fully alive means we have to embrace all the various nuances of our emotional being, the good, bad, and the ugly, so to speak, because emotions themselves are not bad. And it's important to know too that even distressing emotions pass. So emotions are just very important pieces of information to help us stay safe and to know what feels safe for us. And they're just part of us being human. And even distressing emotions pass. They don't stay with us forever. So yeah, hopefully that helps you a little bit as well. Number 6, so this is another common one, coming right after the last one, related to emotions as well, is that your needs and feelings as a person in your family came dead last. So if they were even considered at all, because most of the time what I hear is that the emotions were not even considered at all. But for sure, if they are considered, they're dead last. And it's like almost like there's a hierarchy of mom or dad's needs first, then maybe a golden child or a sibling's needs, and then maybe this person's needs or feelings, and then maybe the victim's needs or the scapegoat, for example, or the problem, so to speak, in the family, the victim in the family. Oh, their needs are way down here, if they're even considered at all. Because I can for sure relate, as many of my clients can, is that the family as a whole did not care about their needs and feelings whatsoever. It was almost like they were just, you might as well not even been in the family, right? So this is where we take big hits to our self-worth and our identity, because this type of damage makes you feel like non-human. Like, why do I even exist here on this planet if I'm practically invisible to everyone and no one cares what I think or feel? So yeah, this one's a really damaging one. And so the antidote to this one is that, hey, newsflash, your needs and feelings are just as important as anyone else's on this planet, right? So every person on this planet is born inherently worthy from the moment they breathe air onto this planet, and everybody's needs are exactly just as valuable as anyone else's. And so are our feelings and thoughts and all of that. So yeah, your thoughts, needs, feelings, perceptions, etc. are just as valuable and important as anyone else's. Yeah, let that one soak in. All right, number 7, this is another common one I see, is this message that people will come in feeling like everything they do is wrong or stupid or bad. And so this comes from the lie that if I make a mistake, then I'm bad, or I'm stupid, or I should be ashamed of myself, that I'm wrong, that I should know better, for example. So how many times have you been criticized or shamed as a child by a parent or caregiver or family member? And of course, this lie happens so often that people internalize these messages that they're bad or wrong or stupid or whatever. So yeah, by the time they're an adult and sitting in front of a trauma therapist, their self-worth is in the dumps, and they cannot even see their worth or value as a human being. So the antidote to this one that I love so very much is that all of us are allowed to make mistakes in life without being humiliated or criticized or shamed, and that mistakes are a natural part of learning. I mean, think back on all of your life. how did you learn the best, right? All of us learn the best by making mistakes and course correcting along the way. How else were you to know uh, what was the best way forward other than, okay, nope, it's not that way. Nope, it's not that way. Ah, okay, this actually is the way, right? So mistakes allow for course correction, and they're not a problem. Everyone makes mistakes. So yeah, you're not stupid, bad, wrong, etc. for making mistakes. You are human, and humans make mistakes, and that's okay. And they're just a method of learning. So yeah, that feels a lot better, right? Than being constantly criticized and shamed for not being perfect, right? So that's how that good old perfectionistic part is born, is with these terrible messages that, mistakes are not allowed and that you need to be perfect. Yeah, false, false, false. None of us are perfect. We don't need to be perfect. Mistakes are normal. It's how we learn, and there's nothing wrong with that. Yeah. Number 8. All right, this is another common one. If someone is feeling some sort of negative emotion, then it is automatically our fault. So this is very common in abusive families where, especially the abusive parent is in some type of rage or feeling some type of negative emotion, and they go to blaming everyone for their feelings. So yeah, false, false, false. We are not responsible for our abusive parents' negative emotions, especially as children, for goodness sake. I mean, it's one thing if you're purposely being harmful to somebody, and of course it would be natural for that person to be angry or upset or sad. We're not talking about those type of instances. We're talking about an abuser blaming a victim for the abuser's negative emotions and like taking out their negative emotions on other people. That's what we're talking about, not a natural human response to terrible, treatment. That's totally different. And the antidote to this is that we are not responsible for other people's emotions, and that other people have a responsibility to learn things like emotion regulation and distress tolerance. All of us are responsible, right, for our own emotions. And this is where it's important to teach the difference between reaction and responding. So in therapy, you'll see a lot of therapists teach the difference between, just blindly reacting to something somebody does. If somebody cuts you off in traffic and maybe you lean out the window and scream obscenities at them and flip them off, that would be a reaction, versus responding might be something that's more cool-headed. You don't just knee-jerk reaction. Maybe you take a deep breath and then you tell yourself, okay, this person probably didn't even see me. And even if they did, they're probably some sort of jerk and I'm not going to get worked up over this. It's not worth it. And so you choose not to, flip them off and engage in some sort of hostile manner. So yeah, everybody's responsible for maturity and, being respectful in how they interact with other people. And if somebody is feeling some type of negative emotion, it's not somebody else's fault. It's not somebody else's fault, and it's not the other person's job to fix it for them. That's where our personal responsibility comes in. And even as abuse victims, right? We're in therapy working on ourselves. That's showing a lot of personal responsibility. So yeah, you don't see the abuser in therapy working on themselves. Nope, but you sure as heck will see the victims in therapy working on themselves. So yeah, it's very common for abusers of all types to blame other people for their own emotions. And that is false, false, false. So yeah, hopefully this one was helpful too. Number 9, another common one that I see is that the abuser basically telling the victim, you don't have the right to be treated with courtesy and respect. However, I, the abuser, must always be treated with courtesy and respect. Now, they may not say this, exactly what I just said. Maybe it's more implied, or it's in how they treat you and respond. So yeah, it's so interesting to me how abusers so commonly, they'll dish it out, so to speak, but they can't take it. So every once in a while you see the victim just lose their crap and like direct the same stuff back at the abuser, and then the abuser's like, oh, so common. Abusers could dish it out left and right, but they can't take it. They can't take it, and they melt down and rage and play the victim and all of that, when interestingly enough, the same behavior is directed back at them. So yeah, this is obviously false. Everyone is entitled to the same courtesy and respect. And that includes you, the victim, so I don't care what abusers think and feel in terms of, feeling entitled to treat people however they want. No, you're not entitled to treat people however you want. Everyone deserves dignity and respect. So yeah, this is a kind of an easy one to put to rest, shall we say. Number 10, this is the final one in my series here. This is where the abuser or the, controlling parent tells the child in some way, shape, or form that they know better than the child knows, in terms of, I know you better than you know yourself. You're not capable of that. Oh, I don't think you should do that type of job. You know how sensitive you are. Yeah, they'll act like all-knowing and that they're the expert, for example, and that you, again, are some peon and stupid idiot that doesn't know what they're doing. So yeah, they'll tell you that you're not capable of achieving some goal or dream because, again, they know you better than you know yourself. False, false, false. So the antidote to this one is only you get to define what is right for you. Nobody else can define that for you. So only you know whether you are capable of reaching some goal or dream. Only you can say for certain how you feel about things or how you think about things. And no one else gets to define you but you. So that is an important caveat. No one in this world can define us but us. We are in the driver's seat. It is our lives, and no one can live it but us. So abusers and controlling people may love to try to define other people and tell them what they can and cannot do. Again, false. All of us are the captain of our own ships, and we are the ones that get to define what feels right and safe and what goals and dreams we want to pursue. So that's a basic human right. So I hope you found these helpful. I hope they challenged maybe some of the automatic thoughts or core beliefs that you inherited from your families of origin. And with practice and with challenging a lot of these automatic beliefs about ourselves, we can begin to change how we see ourselves, and our self-worth can improve over time. So yeah, I enjoyed teaching this topic, and please give me a like and subscribe if you found this helpful. Feel free to drop a comment below if you have any other input or any other ideas that you'd like to share with me, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Take care, everyone.